Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the chemical disaster in Ohio explained. Obviously, this has happened recently. I don't know much about it. I've seen like things on Twitter, and it looks like horrible. To be honest, I'm pretty sure it's the thing. There's a lot of things that have gone on in the US in the past few weeks. I think like a lot of like environmental things, like leaks of certain toxic things in the environment, and I don't know if they're all related, but in Ohio it was like the big cloud that was like, I don't know, it looked like there was a massive explosion pretty much. I don't know what it was, to be fair, and I don't know if it's still going on. This video was made a day ago, so I assume the stuff's still going on that's not known, all this stuff. And yeah, it looks like really scary from looking into it, but I don't know much about what's going on, to be honest, and I don't know if people have lost their lives from it. I don't know like the details, to be fair. So yeah, we're going to check this out and learn about it. Obviously, if you've been affected by this, I hope you're doing well and all that stuff, but we're going to jump into this and see what's going on. I swear this has like been political. I don't know how something like this can be political. Maybe I'll learn, but when there's so it's in the aftermath of chemical disaster in East Palestine. So it's a chemical disaster. Yeah, I don't know how it is, but I mean, I guess everything's politicized at this point in time. But yeah, I'm going to come into this and see and learn for the first time, really. But yeah, let's jump into this and see what's been going on. I'm still ill as well, so if I'm sniffling or coughing, I apologize. I'm still coughing quite a lot, to be honest.
This video is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. Alright, today's topic, as per the title, obviously, is a chemical disaster that recently unfolded in West Palestine, Ohio, but before diving in fully, here's a bit of a disclaimer. There is currently a circulating narrative that mainstream sources are refusing to cover this, or something similar. How that rumor started, I don't know, but here are the facts. This particular incident occurred on a localized scale, with the bulk
Let me just turn the audio up.
of interest happening over a Super Bowl weekend in America. Pretty much everything is going to feel like an afterthought in the realm of social media during the Super Bowl, which leads me to believe, on a gut level at least, that the cover-up concerns are somewhat unlikely. However, keeping with the theme of the channel, today I want to take a deeper look and see what the picture really is beyond headlines and personal opinions. With that said, let's get started. By the time this video comes out, the news will likely have rapidly accelerated into a mainstream spotlight, though it wasn't there initially when I picked it up, or at the very least, a lot more people have become generally aware. I had to wait for a sponsor approval on this, despite the fact that such a requirement and delay always negatively impacts viewership on high interest topics, but when this does finally come out, I hope it manages to retain value. Here's a rough overview before getting much more specific. In early February of 2023, Friday, February 3rd to be exact, a freight train carrying various different chemical compounds derailed near a
So it's from a train crash? Or a train derailment? What?
small town called West Palestine, which is located in Ohio of the United States. That train, while carrying a bevy of other toxic chemicals, experienced a dramatic axle failure where roughly 50 cars were derailed, 5 of which contained a specific toxic chemical called vinyl chloride. According to the official chemical list that was released by Norfolk Southern, which was incomplete at the time and had to be further expanded at a later point, vinyl chloride and benzene residue, as well as butyl acrylate, butyl acrylate, I think is how you say it, were among the compounds that had spilled. In case it wasn't clear, Norfolk Southern Railway is the company responsible for the train and track where the accident happened, who initially published what appeared to be an incomplete list of the chemicals that had spilled, because of course they did. A corporation that just allowed an environmental disaster to play out on their watch is always going to downplay the situation. Regardless, the general overview here is that an axle failure in a Norfolk Southern freight train caused a 50-car derailment with 5 cars of vinyl chloride in addition to other toxic chemicals, which were detonated in a controlled burn a few days later. These are some of the images that began flooding through social media after
That
the
is
fact.
insane.
Thick black
I've seen this picture, but look at that. It's like up and it's just this whole darkness.
images that began flooding through social media after the fact. Thick black clouds of smoke, enormous areas of shadow, and scattered among the pictures were personal accounts of dead wildlife, such as fish and chickens, or radically unnatural behavior patterns for foxes, birds, and other species. Suffice it to say, the entire thing was a disaster.
Jeez.
But what else can we learn? Alright, before going further, let's talk about today's video sponsor, which is Bespoke Post. This is a sponsor I'm actually incredibly proud of because
I'm so ill. I apologize for coughing a lot. I'm not ill, but the cough's just lingering, you know. Getting his money, you'll have to see it.
These by my own choice, independent grow box to cultivate our own herbs soon, or even using a box called smoked to put the finishing touches on special drinks. I stopped drinking.
That looks like something sinister. I'm joking. Getting his money. There you go. If you want to see this.
UEG20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/UEG20. Again, link down below in the description. Check out code UEG20 to get 20% off your first box of awesome today, right now. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. This is the part where we go down a rabbit hole. What even is vinyl chloride? For those that don't know, vinyl chloride is a precursor chemical to polyvinyl chloride, otherwise known as PVC. Vinyl chloride is fascinating stuff, in my opinion, because it actually boils at 7 degrees Fahrenheit. It's highly flammable with a wide variety of lesser negative side effects to exposure, but as if all that weren't enough, it's also a Class 1 IARC carcinogen. Briefly explained, that makes it just one of 122 chemicals that have been certified as the most likely, or are believed to be the most likely with strong evidence, to cause cancer in humans. That's bad, of course.
Oh my days. And they've just spilt that in lorry loads. Oh my god. Oh, mate.
But let's keep going. A standard DOT 111 tanker unit has a maximum capacity of over 30,000 gallons, and this particular accident involved 5 ruptured containers, which could theoretically mean roughly 150,000 gallons of vinyl chloride. I have no idea to what level these cars were filled. I couldn't actually obtain that information from the railroad company, despite trying a couple different ways and looking through public records, and thus we have to assume that we're in the ballpark of 150,000 gallons being burnt up into the atmosphere, but maybe not all the way there. It's a loose estimate. What does it matter? Simple. According to the ATSDR, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, quote, vinyl chloride in the air breaks down in a few days, resulting in the formation of several other chemicals, including hydrochloric acid, formaldehyde, and carbon dioxide.
Oh, damn.
That's a little bit scary, because the idea of 150,000 gallons of cancer-causing toxic chemicals being burnt up into the atmosphere all at once, right next to populated areas, should be scary, but there's more. From the New Jersey Department of Health, and I'm choosing New Jersey right now for a very specific reason, quote, the legal airborne permissible exposure limit, PEL, is 1 parts per million averaged over an 8-hour work shift and 5 ppm, not to be exceeded during any 15-minute work period, end quote. And further down, vinyl chloride is a carcinogen in humans. There may be no safe level of exposure to a carcinogen, so all contact should be reduced to the lowest possible level, end quote. Cool, very straightforward. Vinyl chloride is unbelievably bad. It is in the worst cancer-causing bracket that we currently define for all chemicals. 5 cars of it, roughly totaling 150,000 gallons, got spilled, then burned, or at least a good portion of that, because of a mechanical failure in the train. And according to all available metrics that I could find, there are a nearly insurmountable number of negative ramifications to that. On second thought, no, not cool. Now, the reason I chose health standards from New Jersey in particular was because the next largest vinyl chloride disaster I was able to find is actually from New Jersey, where just 1 container spilled, releasing 23,000 gallons of vinyl chloride. And while the contemporary news from that period focused almost exclusively on the initial, primarily physical injuries, the fallout from that accident may last generations. According to Yeager and Jungbauer Barristers, a law firm specializing in railroad cases, there were actually more than 70 people who were eventually treated for vinyl chloride inhalation, which leaves them tremendously vulnerable to several different cancer types, on top of the economic fallout which then crippled an entire town, it seems. I won't go into much more detail here other than to say that the Paulsboro, New Jersey disaster was bad and brutally impacted a great many people with just 23,000 gallons, which is about 1/5, maybe even 1/7 possibly, of the total amount spilled and burned, a large amount of it, in West Palestine, Ohio. Very not good. Now is where I need to go a bit faster with rapid fire information. Knowing the chemical compound that spilled, knowing the types of cancer it can cause, it was time to start gathering data on that angle to either confirm or debunk the rising social media fears, of which there are many, and this is what I found. According to the National Cancer Institute, counties in the United States have dramatically different cancer rates as a function of region. The highest cancer rates, generally speaking, for all types occur in Kentucky, but New Jersey isn't all that far behind. Since we have data on a roughly comparable event from Gloucester County, New Jersey, we can check by specific type of cancer, such as liver, brain, and lung, where we can find that there is not a dramatically higher rate of cancer diagnosis in that particular county over the past 5 years. Maybe there was something further back than that, but if there was, I can't find it. This should be somewhat good news for those who live in the area, but in an effort to be as balanced as possible, I do have to elaborate a bit more. This story didn't just blow up because of a horrible spill of a horrible chemical that can cause terrifying types of cancer. It also blew up because of authority reactions. For starters, during an official press conference by the governor of Ohio, DeWine, a journalist speaking in the back of the room to his live broadcast camera, whose job is specifically to be there and cover the event, was actually arrested. Now, having watched the body cam footage, which they did release, I can say with confidence that he should not have been arrested. It didn't make any sense. There is absolutely nothing I saw that indicated otherwise, though I may not have all the facts of the matter. And if he was being too disruptive, which is possible, although he didn't seem to be, he could have been removed without arrest. This was a very incendiary thing to do, that is, arrest this man while dozens of other media agencies continued unimpeded. And even worse, part of the body camera footage is muted, so we don't really know all of what happened. But what I see, based on the evidence revealed so far, is power-tripping cops who think that just because they have the authority to issue a command, de facto means that the command is somehow proper to give, which does not logically follow in the slightest. Arresting a journalist who is trying to cover a breaking news story about cancer-causing chemicals that were leaked into a populated area doesn't look good. And it gave rise to explosive theories about some sort of government cover-up. Whether or not you believe those theories is up to the individual, but what if I threw in a few more facts of the matter? Fact number 1. On the ohio.gov website for Governor DeWine, we can see parroted information from Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern inaccurately stated a list of chemicals initially after their reaction to the disaster, which had to be dramatically revised because they left dangerous chemicals off of the list. Norfolk Southern also, in 2017, according to SEC filings, fought against and ultimately avoided a shareholder action that asked them to, quote, assess, review, and mitigate risks of hazardous material transportation, end quote. As if that's not enough, when confronted by the reality that their company had now possibly destroyed or at least negatively impacted in a dramatic way an entire town, what does Norfolk Southern do? Simple. They pledged $25,000 to the Red Cross for temporary shelter in order to help West Palestine. That's it. To put this in perspective, people lost pets, many of them were evacuated for days on end, and that $25,000 is basically like spitting in their face.
Yeah, that is not a very good way to give back to the people that have been suffering. And also, would you want to go back? I don't know personally if I'd trust it. Obviously, a lot of people won't have the choice. It's where their homes are. They have all this stuff. They can't really control it. But for me, I would be wary about going back. I'm not going to lie.
Now, the officials, if you will, have come out and said that everything is fine. They ran a bevy of tests. There's nothing beyond residual traces or background substances, which should alleviate concern, in theory, right? That's what we would expect.
Well, there was literally a fire. They were literally burning it. The fumes would have gone everywhere. What do you mean?
Logical response, but people don't trust them. The credibility of our institutions is at or near an all-time low in America on subjects like this in particular. Also, not forgetting the sensationalized headlines that become possible when you selectively arrest a journalist who is simply trying to cover it all. And I can't help but arrive at my own conclusions after digging into the research, where all signs point toward a calculated effort to reopen the railroad track as soon as humanly possible.
Wow.
That is entirely my own speculation, but yeah, that seems to be how it is from my perspective. Thereby resorting to an open burn of the chemicals, which is what they did, instead of proper disposal. They just free burned them right up into the atmosphere.
That is crazy.
According to statements obtained by the lever made by Stephen Dittmeyer, some sort of electronic braking system would have made a difference in this crash in some capacity. But once again, Norfolk Southern actually fought to kill such a proposal during the Trump administration. In fact, Norfolk Southern has given hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions actually, to dozens of politicians in key strategic locations so that they can exert influence over policy. With that influence, they not only denied a shareholder request aimed at bolstering or at least evaluating their hazardous materials policies, but also killed legislation after a flurry of railroad-based contributions to GOP candidates that specifically would have had an impact on accidents like the one currently unfolding in Ohio. In tandem, well, not exactly at the same time, but nearabouts in the grand scheme of things, they are performing enormous share buybacks with enormous executive bonuses, but can't even be bothered to give more than $25,000 for temporary housing to a town that they may have just literally and economically destroyed for years to come. This is what corruption looks like. This is what people criticize about a cutthroat capitalist world, and you know what? They should criticize it. The fact that this accident, with truly unknown fallout down the line, probably decades into the future, is being glossed over by many of the mainstream media publications, the federal government, and so many others, who only seem to fixate on the total number of initial deaths or injuries, or the danger of an explosion instead of the long-term devastation caused by just incinerating all of those chemicals straight into the atmosphere, is truly horrifying to me. My personal speculation here, a successful brutal corporation, I should add, has now spilled a massive amount of dangerous chemicals. Their solution was to spit in the town's face, in a way, give them $25,000, and then blow up the mistake as fast.
Crazy. $25,000 for a big company like this when you've caused all this trouble in a town that, like he said, will probably not recover because of all the financial loss that will come from this. Maybe businesses won't want to come here. All these things are going to affect it now. And you give them $25,000. Are you crazy?
As fast as possible, like literally blow up the mistake as fast as possible, to get their operations fully back online. They have repeatedly fought against nearly all forms of legitimate safety, even in the face of mass layoffs, enormous share buybacks, and executive bonuses. But to make it all that much worse, this is the level of corruption we are seeing. In a 2007 investor document, Norfolk Southern actually bragged about their electronic braking system. They used it as a method of exciting their shareholders and stated that the technology was so safe it would soon be included in dozens more of their trains. Flash forward, not so much. Even though they admitted that ECP brakes could decrease the track needed to stop a train by as much as 60%, which is a massive amount, and yet they didn't just drop the ball, they fought our government so that this massively superior and safer technology would not be required in trains.
What?
All in all, it's a story that has been enveloping social media for a number of days, but I wanted to try and add my
What a shady ass company. God damn.
sense and see if I could contribute to the conversation. My opinion here is that a bloated and reckless company has put the maximum amount of positive spin that they can on a wholly avoidable disaster. On top of that, they also lobbied against all of the safety measures, it seems, that could have helped prevent this. And as they push out maximized publicity spin, our own government turns around and regurgitates that publicity spin back to us. What a world we live in.
Yeah,
that's
sad.
it. If you want to support, there are links down below, merch, social media, the video sponsor, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching.
Well, damn. Everyone, regardless of party, regardless of whether you live in Ohio, should be outraged by how the government is handled. Yeah, I mean, that is just a joke, to be honest. I don't know what's changed since this, but YouTube journalism is so much better than the media. It really is in so many aspects. You'll get that proper coverage and like fair, I guess, comments from both sides, and like, yeah, you can just trust it more. Like, it's not like someone like this is gonna be forced by money. Like, they're not gonna have money there, like these big companies being like, yeah, regurgitate this for us, please. Like, no. The last thing Ohio needed was a freaking chemical cancer-raining rail or disaster. I mean, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Where was the EPA during all of this? They fine people for modifying the diesel trucks, yet apparently they don't pay any attention to the burn of. Yeah, and what is the need for these chemicals in the first place? I don't know. Maybe there is like good use for them. I mean, there must be. But burning them and all that, like, what is going on? Why? I don't understand how is that the conclusion you come to just burn it? Raise your hand if you first found out about this anywhere but by mainstream or national. No, I saw people posting it on Twitter, just random people. I found out because Mike Martin's Stokes and redacted. Okay, yeah, there we go. But yeah, I don't know if any of you are from here, or from the surrounding area, but hopefully you're doing well. Please let me know, I guess, what's going on from your perspective if you are. But yeah, if you want me to check out some more to do this, let me know. And until next time, peace.